Every American tonight should be outraged, concerned about how did we get here, especially now that we have evidence of known crimes, massive abuse of power, which will be the focus of us in days and months going forward. Now, if the full weight of America's justice system can be used to persecute a sitting president of the United States when they even tried to set the election up for the person that they loved, when that person should have been indicted, that would mean nobody in America is safe. And still, as the Attorney General points out, the Mueller investigation, it was not hindered in any way, not by the president, not by anybody. As if being president isn't hard enough, the president, well, he was forced to deal with this undue burden of what is a baseless, absurd investigation that all began before he became president in July of 2016. Now, this, of course, as the mainstream media spread a constant, steady stream of lies and misinformation to the entire world about America's sitting president. Small reminder. Oh, and this will get big as the days unfold. Take a look.
You told the Washington Post last week that, quote, there's a smell of treason in the air when it comes to this investigation.
We are looking at the possibility that the President of the United States and those around him during an election campaign colluded with a hostile foreign power to undermine the basis of our democracy.
Donald Trump now sits at the threshold of impeachment.
There's outright treason. I mean, there is no question that what he is doing is giving aid and comfort to the enemy.
It does look like collusion. It does look like he's listening to Putin more than he is American intelligence. And frankly, I've never seen that before.
Vladimir Putin and his associates, somebody has something on Donald Trump.
We're hearing a new word, right? He said it was treason.
And you wonder why I call them the hate Trump media mob. Of course, the hate Trump media mob, they were just following their orders, as they always do, from their leftist Democratic friends, taking their cue from the leaders in the Democratic Party. We have the evidence of that as well. Take a look.
Do you believe that the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians in the 2016 campaign?
Yes.
Do you believe the president himself colluded with the Russians?
Yes, he colluded, and I don't think that's a hard answer to the question at all.
Certainly say with confidence that there is significant evidence of collusion between the campaign and Russia.
It's beyond the shadow of a doubt to me that if there was not collusion, there was at least the effort to collude with a foreign power.
We saw cold, hard evidence of the Trump campaign, indeed the Trump family, eagerly intending to collude possibly with Russia, a hostile foreign power, to influence American elections. It's becoming clear we have suffered a desecration of our democracy not seen since Watergate.
They swallowed it all, hook, line, and sinker. And tonight, the only people actually shocked that the witch hunt came up empty are those on the left who once again, rushed to judgment, denied due process, peddling a steady stream of daily lies, propaganda, misinformation, and, of course, conspiracy theories. And this includes those who hated Trump so much that they were willing to suspend any and all logic and believe in a fantasy, and thereby creating false hopes for every Trump hater all across the country. There will be a reckoning. We will hold all of these people in the days, weeks, and months accountable. Now, of course, this includes known liar and leaker. Yep, Congressman. Well, we call him the cowardly Schiff. He won't come on this program. Now, he might be the most detached from reality after a 9-month investigation from the FBI, a 22-month investigation from Mueller. You had a bipartisan investigation from the Senate, another bipartisan investigation in the House. After all these investigations prior to today turned up zero evidence of collusion, nothing. Well, earlier today, Adam Schiff, he vowed to continue his own personal witch hunt into the president. Of course, why serve the American people when you can stay focused on a conspiracy theory? Take a look.
What are the outstanding questions that your committee, the House Intelligence Committee, for example, will continue to investigate regardless of what the Mueller report reveals?
Well, there are any number of examples that I could give you of information that we've obtained in our investigation, information that's become clear from the special counsel investigation, that may not be neatly summed up in a decision or disclosure that we decided to indict A but not B. If they're not answered, then we're going to have to answer them. We're going to have to find the truth.
Schiff continues to be blinded by his rage and hatred of all things Trump, lying to his constituents for political gain. Oh, and of course, he's raising money off of yours truly. Sends out fundraising letters with Sean Hannity, attack Schiff, but he's never backing down. Please donate here. Now, either way, many in the mainstream media, or the media mob as we call them, they're starting to face some reality. Their favorite conspiracy theory is officially dead. Sad day. There's no thrill up people's legs today over at some other networks. Take a look.
Would it be the smoking gun? Would it give information as to criminality? Would it answer the core question of collusion? To the extent that it doesn't, to the extent that there are no more indictments, I have to say I think it's good news for the White House.
Well, let's be specific. This is really good news for a lot of people around Donald Trump.
That narrative that this was all an elaborate setup, that there was an elaborate piece of the puzzle waiting for that last element, which was Americans colluding with Russians, it clearly is not part of the special counsel's move forward at this point.
He's been vindicated by them, essentially.
And then he's now vindicated, exactly. But if I'm at Mar-a-Lago with the president, as Pamela's been reporting, the lawyers are,
feeling good.
That I would be very happy.
You have to say that if it turns out that there is no indictment that alleges any conspiracy between anyone in the Trump campaign and the Russians, that vindicates the president to some degree.
You can see their disappointment. Oh, it's got to be killing them. I can almost taste their tears from here. Years and years of breathless hysteria, lies presented as facts and truth. What is like Maddow and all the other MSNBC conspiracy theorists? What are they going to cover now? What is fake news CNN? Where do they find their content now? What will little Chucky Todd at night be dreaming of? Now, I'm sure, per usual, they'll just find other fake anti-Trump conspiracies to push, all while never apologizing for outright lies, breathless, hysterical coverage day after day, night after night. Now, we've been right all along. The president has been vindicated, but so much damage has already been done. We now have our partisan two-tiered system of justice that we've been warning you about. It has now been laid bare for the country and the world to see. We have watched constitutional rights trampled on, the Constitution shredded, the rule of law, equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws, frankly, is as of today a joke, one that will have a long-standing impact on this country and our future. And the big question tonight is, where do we go from here? What about all the laws that we know have been broken with real evidence? Because up until now, many Democrats, all these deep state operatives that have abused power and conspired against Trump and have been involved in conspiracies, they've gotten a free pass. Mueller spent 22 months investigating President Trump over what was a fantasy based on no evidence. Meanwhile, we have for 2 years on this program presented real, actual Russian campaign collusion in the 2016 election, the biggest abuse of power scandal in history. We have real collusion with real evidence. Hillary Clinton's dirty Russian dossier was literally put together by a foreign spy, Christopher Steele. He used real Russia lies, from Russia. And why was that not investigated? Why are we not talking about that tonight? That dirty Clinton Russian dossier, which was never verified, and we now know unverifiable because its author, he can't stand by his own dossier, his own writings. That same dossier used to obtain a FISA warrant to spy on a Trump campaign associate. And we now know reporters were fed and spread those Russian lies, and they were spreading it to the American people before the 2016 election. That includes the Washington Post and David Corn and Michael Isikoff. We know FISA court judges that they were lied to, frauds committed before them. They were never told about the dossier's author hating Trump. They were never told about the hyper-partisan nature. Hillary Clinton paid for it. They were never told that none of this was verified or corroborated. Never told any of this. Why was Carter Page in the middle of all of this? Why were his constitutional rights allowed to be violated based on Hillary Clinton bought and paid for Russian lies? Why was the Trump campaign spied on because of Clinton bought and paid for Russian lies? Why is none of this? Why has that not been investigated? Where's the special counsel for that? And also, we now know, thanks to the Hill's John Solomon, we know a high-ranking Ukrainian official tried to help Hillary Clinton get elected, interfere in our election. They did it by timing the release of embarrassing material about then-campaign chairman Paul Manafort. A Ukrainian court called it an illegal intrusion into the American election campaign. Why was that not investigated by Mueller? What about the Uranium One scandal? What about the whole issue of Vladimir Putin having thugs right here in America that we know were involved in bribery, extortion, kickbacks, money laundering? Why did we know? Because we had an American FBI spy inside of Putin's network telling our top law enforcement Putin wanted a foothold in the uranium market in America, and he got it, because people like Hillary Clinton and others signed off on that ridiculous move. We don't have enough uranium. We need to import uranium, the foundational material for nuclear weapons. What about the Clinton Foundation? Oh, they ended up taking about $145 million from all those executives involved in that Uranium One deal. And that was Secretary of State Hillary Clinton signing off on it. Her husband meeting with Vladimir Putin, 3 times his normal speaking fee in Russia. Why was that not investigated? Why were there, when you think about this, no criminal referrals for those associated with Clinton? Oh, that's right. None of that was investigated because the special counsel's investigation was a partisan witch hunt from day one. Remember, after all, Mueller hired a team filled with big-time Clinton, Obama-loving, Trump-hating Democratic donors. His top lawyer, Jeannie Ray, literally Hillary Clinton's lawyer at the Clinton Foundation. How in good conscience did she ever get hired by Mueller? Why was Mueller's pit bull, his top prosecutor, Andrew Weissman, a guy attended Hillary Clinton's election night victory party that never transpired? He was the top investigator for Mueller from the very beginning of the investigation. And don't forget Peter Strzok. He was involved from the get-go. You know, Peter Strzok had a girlfriend, Lisa Page. Strzok was the one that was calling Trump supporters smelly Walmart shoppers, saying that Hillary Clinton should win 100 million to 0. He referred to Trump as a deplorable human being, loathsome. He saw the Russia probe as an insurance policy to stop Trump in case he wins. And don't forget how they rigged. He was the one that interviewed Hillary Clinton in her investigation. And he was writing Hillary's exoneration in May of 2016 before they did the investigation in July. And he interviewed Hillary July 2nd. Comey exonerated her on July 5th. And then they started investigating Donald Trump. And what about the biggest slam dunk obstruction of justice case ever? Even Alan Dershowitz couldn't get me off. I asked him last night if I had subpoenaed 33,000 emails, I delete them, I acid wash my hard drive with bleach pit, and then I bust up my devices, my Blackberries, my iPhones with hammers and remove SIM cards. I think I'd be in jail for a long time. Don't forget, we had classified and top secret information on Hillary's secret server. What about Mueller's other investigators, other prosecutors? How many of them? They donated tens and tens of thousands of dollars to Democrats. Yeah, including Hillary. And Mueller hired 0 registered Republicans. So we're going to find out maybe over the weekend, maybe next week, sometime soon. This Mueller report is inevitably, at least the contents of it, to the extent that we are allowed, to the extent the Attorney General decides it is in his discretion and his discretion only. We're going to find out as much as we possibly can about what's in there. But know this. This is only, whatever it is, it's only one side of the story. Whatever you hear is only the prosecutorial viewpoint from what is a group of hyper-partisan Trump haters, those who are always hell-bent on bludgeoning this president, no matter what. But facts matter. Truth matters. And tonight, as pointed out by Byron York, we know that Mueller did not indict Donald Trump Jr. or Jared Kushner or other people subject to the insane media hysteria speculation. Is the media ever going to apologize to them? Don't hold your breath. And we know that Mueller did not charge anyone in the Trump campaign, nobody, and will not be charging anyone further with conspiring with Russia to fix the 2016 election. We know that Robert Mueller never subpoenaed the president. We know that President Trump did not fire Mueller, as many predicted he would. We know that the president did not interfere tonight with the Mueller investigation. This was an investigation into collusion. If there's no collusion, obstruction, or conspiracy that was found, nothing else matters. No matter what these people that have been selling you lies for years tell you. But we must never forget what has happened here. A partisan witch hunt that was designed to protect their favorite presidential candidate, rig that election when she should have been indicted. They didn't want Donald Trump to win. So then they lied and committed fraud before a FISA court, denying a fellow citizen their constitutional rights, spying on an opposition party candidate in an election year, having it leaked to the American people, Russian lies to influence the election. And then, of course, telling Donald Trump, James Comey did it. Well, he signs on to the FISA application in October 2016. In January 2017, he said it's unverified and salacious. That's not what he told the FISA court. They never told the FISA court that Hillary paid for it. They never told the FISA court Christopher Steele hated Trump. They never told the FISA court that nothing's verified here. This cannot happen if we want to remain a constitutional republic. We must bring the real perpetrators of real fraud, real conspiracy, real abuse of power and corruption to justice. Where we go from here tonight matters. All of those who abuse their powers, all of those that did everything in their power that we grant them, we give to them, to first stop Donald Trump from ever being elected, and then having an insurance policy if he was elected, thinking they knew better than you, we, the American people. They thought they knew better than all of us. They all need to be held accountable as we move forward from this day on, in the days, the weeks, the months ahead. And by the way, you in the media, I promise you, you will be eating your fake news, conspiracy theories and reports and hysteria for decades to come. Joining us now, Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz is with us, and who's going to write his own rebuttal to this report, which will be interesting. Fox News legal analyst, best-selling author, The Russia Hoax, Greg Jarrett, and former federal prosecutor Sidney Powell. I saw you on earlier, Professor, with Brett Baer, and you rightly made the point, this is one side. But we do know that there are no indictments. We do know that there won't be any further indictments. And that says an awful lot to me.
It does. But, you know, the report will be very critical of the Trump administration and of President Trump. And we have to remember it's a completely one-sided report. None of the witnesses were cross-examined by the Trump legal team. The Trump legal team didn't have an opportunity to submit responses and answers. I would have thought the better policy would be for Attorney General Barr to withhold releasing the report for a week or 10 days, give the Trump team an opportunity to respond, and then simultaneously release both reports to the public. That's what the adversary system is about. You have a one-sided report by the prosecution, then you have a one-sided report by the defense, and then the public has the right to assess the veracity and the persuasiveness of each report and come to their own conclusion. That's what the marketplace of ideas is all about. So I want to urge every American, if in fact they only produce the Mueller report, even if it's exculpatory, it will have some negative things, withhold final judgment until you see the Trump defense team's response. Only then can you really form a final judgment about who's right and who's wrong here.
Oh, but of course they don't want the president or his legal team to have any viewing of this at all, Professor. Let me bring Greg Jarrett in. Greg, obviously this has been a big issue. You know every detail. You chronicled it in your book, the #1 bestseller, The Russian Hoax. And do you feel vindicated today? I agree with the professor. It's going to be filled with innuendo, but innuendo doesn't matter. There will be no further indictments. That matters.
Yeah, and the president, not just me, but the president should feel vindicated. He said all along there was no collusion. And here we now have a word from the Department of Justice. There will be no more indictments, which means nobody was ever charged with a Russia collusion-related crime like conspiracy. There should never have been, as I argue in my book, an investigation by the FBI. We learned just days ago from Lisa Page in her closed-door testimony, she admitted readily, we didn't have any evidence of collusion when we launched the probe. And 9 months later, when the special counsel Robert Mueller was appointed, we still didn't have any collusion. Go back and look at Comey's testimony, which also was behind closed doors, and he confessed to the exact same thing. So here we are, 2.5 years later. God knows how many millions of dollars spent. But I feel for the people, and I talked to 6 of them, who were subject to interrogation by Robert Mueller and his team of prosecutors. They were browbeat. They were pressured into lying, to saying things that were not true, to incriminate other people. That is not just unconscionable for a prosecutor to do, but in fact, it's an attempt to suborn perjury. Who's going to investigate the investigators?
You know, you wrote a best-selling book, Sidney Powell, License to Lie, and, you know, what did Judge Ellis say? That we know what this is really all about. This has nothing really to do with Manafort. This is about seeing if he'll sing or compose so they can impeach or get Donald Trump. He was right from the get-go. But you chronicle that, and a lot of the people in this case, you have chronicled their abuse of power in the past.
Oh, yes, Andrew Weissman in particular. Sean is the lead villain in License to Lie, and if people really want to understand how Mr. Mueller and his cabal of Clinton cronies and prosecutors operate, they need to read License to Lie, because these people will do anything to craft the narrative they want to craft to make their cases stand up. If they couldn't find collusion against the president, there was absolutely nothing there for them to work with. He is completely exonerated.
You know, last night, Professor Dershowitz, you kind of laughed. I said, you're a great lawyer, and if I hired you and I had deleted 33,000 subpoenaed email, and then I wipe-cleaned my hard drive and busted up my devices with hammers, I didn't think you could get me off. I mean, maybe you could. Maybe you and Greg together could team up and save my life. But the reality is that happened. And then other things happened. We now know a lot about what was going on behind the scenes. Lying to a FISA court, committing a fraud on purpose. We know Bruce Orr testified. He warned everybody. Steele hates Trump. Hillary paid for it. It's unverified. Now we know it's unverifiable because Steele says, I have no idea if it's true. So there's no way the FBI could have verified it. But they signed off on it. One original application and 3 subsequent applications. If we can do that to one American citizen and spy on one campaign in this cycle and not get to the bottom of that, how dangerous is that to our country?
Well, I think it's very dangerous. That's why from day one, I didn't want to see the appointment of a special counsel with people's target on their backs. I wanted to see the appointment by Congress of a independent, nonpartisan expert commission like the 9/11 Commission, looking into the entire issue of the 2016 election. Everything. The Steele dossier, what maybe the Clinton camp did wrong, what maybe the Trump camp may have done wrong. An objective, nonpartisan investigation open to the public, not behind closed doors, not one-sided, so that everybody in America could see what went wrong with the 2016 election in terms of Russia's attempts to influence it and make sure we can prevent it in the future. That's what commissions are supposed to look into. But when you make somebody into a prosecutor, they're not interested in the truth. They're interested in getting somebody and putting a target on their back and prosecuting, and that is not the way to get to the truth.
And Greg, if Hillary has her investigation rigged, FISA court judges, they're committing open fraud against them to spy on an individual, an American, and also get into the Trump campaign, and those lies are spread, real Russian lies. Are you confident those people will be held accountable?
I think they should be, and I think William Barr will look into it, Lindsey Graham will look into it. But beyond FISA, James Comey stole government documents. Those presidential memos were not his. He delivered them to unauthorized individuals, 3 individuals. So that needs to be examined. And according to Senator Grassley, at least one of those memos contained classified information, and the FBI had to do a spillage cleanup on that. So Comey and McCabe and Strzok and everybody who signed off on those FISA warrants as well should all be subject to a serious, legitimate investigation, present the evidence to a grand jury if it exists, and allow them to indict if appropriate.
Sydney, where do we go from here?
Well, Sean, to restore the rule of law and the integrity of the FBI and the Department of Justice, there is going to have to be a real investigation by the Department of Justice of what really did happen here. And everything's going to need to be declassified that has been withheld so far. We need the rest of the transcripts of the testimony of the people who testified before Congress. We need the FISA applications. We need the Bruce Orr 302s and all the things that we've talked about before that the president has the ability to declassify. Those should be made available now so the American people can see what really went on. And then the people that are responsible for this real conspiracy to destroy the president, to keep him from being elected, must be held accountable, or there will be no rule of law in this country.
Agreed. You know what? Those FISA applications ought to be released at the exact same time that the Attorney General gives his report. Those 302s, same thing. Gang of 8 information, same thing. All the other buckets we've talked about.
And I think the FISA court ought to see whether or not a contempt of court citation against the people who misled them is appropriate.
Agreed.
We need to hear from those FISA judges
unredacted.
too. Absolutely.
Yes, we need the names unredacted from Rosemary Collier's decision of a year ago where Comey gave illegal access to the raw NSA database to 3 private contractors. We need to know who those 3 private contractors are. That led to all the unmaskings and everything too.
We forgot about that, and leaking raw intelligence, unmasking at a 350% increased rate. No, we don't. We're civil libertarians here. Thank you all. Joining us now live from the Justice Department with the very latest details on this breaking story tonight is our own Catherine Herridge. Catherine, I know you've been working hard all. You look cold. Is it cold there?
I am so cold here, if I'm going to be absolutely honest, but it's worth it to be right here at the Justice Department. So I want to pick up on a couple of points, Sean, that you just made with your panelists, which is that in addition to the special counsel investigation, there's been a parallel investigation that's been run here at the Justice Department by the Inspector General, Michael E. Horowitz, and he's been looking at a handful of issues. One is the leaking of classified memos, classified information by senior FBI executives, also the receiving of gifts by those executives from members of the media and others, and then most importantly, these allegations of surveillance abuse through the FISA court in the 2016 campaign. And on that point, Fox News exclusively obtained 40 pages of text messages. I have them here between the former acting FBI director, Andrew McCabe, and FBI lawyer Lisa Page. And these text messages, Sean, show that in October of 2016, just 9 days before the FISA application was granted for Carter Page, there was a lot of concern and heartburn by a senior Justice Department official about the bias of a confidential human source that was associated with the application. Based on our reporting, we believe it's the former British spy, Christopher Steele. These text messages, I'm also told tonight, since our story went online, were never provided to some of the House committees that were seeking these text messages of Andrew McCabe last year. They felt that this obstructed their investigation. And finally, in the text messages, you see senior people at the FBI sharing very derogatory blogs about then candidate Trump, and even using the D word to describe Congressman Trey Gowdy. So you can get a sense, if you go online and read our story, whether it's more evidence of political bias that may have infected these investigations, Sean.
And remember, we're going to go over those in a lot more detail. Everything's up on foxnews.com, Catherine's full report, exclusive report. But remember, McCabe also said no dossier, no FISA application.